All right. So if you want to do something other than Splunk, you can set up a Linux server. And so there's a few projects here. You could use a locally installed Ubuntu machine or anything if you like. But what I've taken to doing is sending all my students to use the cloud, because a lot of my students don't have a powerful enough machine to run virtual machines locally. And the cloud is a good skill to learn anyway. Now, I used, until recently, the only cloud server that gave you a lot of free service was the Google Cloud, so I got used to using that. It's very nice. All you need to have is a credit card and a Gmail account, and your credit card will not be charged. You use a credit card to sign up, and they give you $200 or $300 of service. And when you use it up, you just make another Gmail account and use the same credit card again and get another $300 of service. I've done it about 20 times. It's great. And of course, it's happening because Google is like number 3 in the cloud market, and they're trying to get up to a higher level. So I expect pretty soon Google will probably give up and this will all vanish. So enjoy it while you can. But anyway, right now, Google is handing away ridiculous amounts of free service.
Did not know that.
Yeah, very nice. So, yeah. So, by the way, Azure is now handing up free. You could totally do this on Azure now if you have an edu email address. Azure will give you lots of free service. But I just found that out recently. I've been using Google for a couple of years. So you can just make machines here. You can put any operating system on them you want, although not Windows 10. And anyway, so I made a Debian server here, and you just click SSH, and then you get an SSH shell on your server. Now, the Linux servers use very little resources, and they cost about $1 a day of your fake money. Windows servers you can make here too, but they tend to cost like $10 a day, so you really want to turn them off when you're not using them. But the Azure machines are definitely the way to go with Windows. If you have a college email account, you can get free service from Azure the same way. So here you've got, IPA, you've just got a server with fast bandwidth in the cloud, not dependent on your hardware. So that's what I've been using for the last couple of years, and this is really good. When I taught classes at Black Hat, for example, the fact that everything was in the cloud made a huge difference. And I found the same thing in my classes. A lot of students have an old machine or a weak machine, and they can't just install VMware and make it run. And putting everything in the cloud is the best answer. So once you've got a cloud server, there's a flag or two to find just to prove that you have it. And then you do a couple of projects with your cloud Linux server here. Here you can, so in this case, you make an Ubuntu server, and I think a Debian server and an Ubuntu server. And on the Ubuntu server, you can install Splunk, the free version. And once you've got Splunk running, it will listen, and it's listening on a couple of ports here. So then you can add data. So to add data to your server, you can monitor the server itself, which is what we're going to do. This is the simplest thing. You just feed in the log files into Splunk. So you just tell it to take everything in var log and put it in Splunk. And so now you have events here, like the auth log and so on, in Splunk. And then you can put SSH on your server and enable password authentication and make some failed login events. So this simulates a brute force attack of like the kind we were talking about last time. And then you can look in Splunk and find those log entries showing that this user keeps trying to log in and they have failed password messages. So that's the simplest. Then you can install Suricata, the open source intrusion detection system, and put on a test rule to detect a ping, and then put on the real rules that detect real attacks, and then send some simulated attacks and detect a DDoS attack and some other attacks here. So you get to make sure that's all working. You have a SYN flood and so on, and pick that stuff up in Splunk. So you're just seeing a simple case of what was done to set up that stuff. Then you can continue, you can set up a Debian server and put Metasploit on that server and send more sophisticated attacks to it. You set up Drupal on your target and you attack it with Drupalgeddon, which is one of the attacks used against a lot of websites. And then there's OS Query. This is a Facebook tool, and the point of OS Query is that you can examine the important parts of any machine with a standard set of commands. So you install this product called OS Query on your server, and then it has this database created of the event log on that server. And you have these database commands to look at things. So you'll have tables that have information about the hardware and the software, the Chrome extensions, the CPU, and all these different sources available. You have the shell history and so on. And so you can see what's going on, and then you can feed your system logs from your Linux server into OS Query, so it has all those events too. And then you can configure file integrity monitoring, so it will follow certain directories, and if any file changes in those directories, it will log that, so you know that's happened. This is commonly done to detect the installation of rootkits and malware of various types. So this is a way to protect a Linux server here, although you can use OS Query on other systems. So that's an important tool to know about. And that's as far as I go here with Linux. Then we'll talk about Windows. But let me stop this video. We'll make that a separate topic.